always liked this part of the street. Tree lines, you know, it's downhill. I just think it looks cool. I was even thinking actually afterwards, maybe what I'll do is I'm gonna jump in the back seat. That way I can get you from the backside, right, and you get the whole dash and everything, you know. I heard that. Oh, there's a freight. Oh, there's a freight. Was it a freight? No, it was a Via. I admit it, I'm a foamer. I didn't even know what a foamer was until somebody told me. A foamer is somebody who's fanatical about trains.
Really? Why foam?
Yeah.
What's that?
Well, foamer because you love trains so much you foam at the melt.
Oh, right, okay. But it could apply to anything.
I guess so. I never heard of that being applied for anything else, but, you know. Would you believe, I never told you this, but I actually lived on VILLE, that street that leads up to Norman. And actually, the other day I was thinking, when you told me, you're like, that's where I go to test out my car, so to speak. Yeah. I was thinking, like, it didn't occur to me. I'm like, holy shit, you know what? I had forgotten that because I lived there in the 90s and it was just a vacant land except for these townhouses on the right you're going to see.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Holy
cow, that's like one of the longest Via trains I've ever seen. And yeah, there were none of these houses here, and I'd totally forgotten about that actually. You know? And as a matter of fact, when I lived here in the 90s, this whole land was contaminated. That's why they didn't build any. That's why they didn't build any houses for the longest time.
Yes. Well, you know what they did is they, because I used to work in the West Island, I would drive through here while they were digging it up, and they had to decontaminate all the land.
Yeah. I'd even forgotten until now that they closed that street. There used to be a street right there before the tunnel, and it's closed, you know.
So are you filming?
All right, guys, ready to go for a ride? We're right next to the CN yard there, but we're not exactly allowed to go in there, so. You want to turn the headlights on? Yeah, man. Sounds good, man. Give her a couple of revs there, Ed. Man, that sounds good, man. I'll tell you, there's nothing that sounds like that. The only thing close that sounds like that, of course, is the Volkswagen, so, but it's not exactly the same thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can pull it closed.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna just, all right, I'm gonna adjust myself for this car, because like its owner, I'm pretty tall. Oh yeah, that's sweet, man. I had noticed though that the windshield was dirty when we're going west, and because of the way where the sun is, but now it won't even matter actually because the sun is going to be behind us. It's perfect. Oh, this is beautiful, man. I want to thank you again for letting me do this here.
Oh, my pleasure.
This is great for you too, because if ever you would decide to get fed up with this car and want to sell it, well, there you go. You got your video reference right there. Yeah, I doubt it too. I mean, I could see it.
Put too much work into it.
Oh man, for sure. I mean, it's not
6 years working on it.
A little bit of what's left of a summer breeze, though, even though we're officially fall now. Yeah, I had noticed that your radio, it looked like it was I almost thought it was an aftermarket, because the aftermarket radios for the Chevys, they have the bow tie symbol there, and that's usually where the, you know, sometimes the cassette would go or something, but no, it's originally. Got some ominous clouds there. I almost thought of putting like a little music to this, you know, little like early 60s, you know, 63 hits. I don't know, probably not though. I think it's also because, you know, this car has such a wonderful sound. Again, it's almost unique, eh?
It doesn't sound like a Volkswagen, I find.
Well, I know I said it kind of does because it's air cooled, you know.
Yeah.
It's a rear engine, but maybe I mean, you know better than me, anyways. I like the white headliner, you know. They didn't keep making cars like that. That was definitely an early '60s and older kind of a thing, you know.
Makes it a little brighter.
Because I had a friend with a '64 Impala, and he had a black interior just like this with a black headliner, but the car was restored, so I think the headliner was probably changed even, you know. A few buses, Greyhound.
So of course you don't have a seatbelt back there.
No, I don't really care. I mean, look, there's one thing.
To go around on the highway and then we'll snake our way back, or what?
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about. Oh, look, an old Camry. Oh wow. Look at that.
Do that then, or?
Yeah. No, I thought you were going to go through that tunnel again. That would have been cool.
Oh, we can do that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you mentioned that because you wanted to go on the highway, and it's not easier to get on the highway from going east. I guess that's what you're saying. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's true. Yeah. Anyway, we went through the tunnel already. So
on the highway.
yeah, might as well. What do you want to do? You want to jump on and get off?
Well, we'll get off at first and then go through VILLE St. Pierre again, I guess.
Yeah, or we could go across the 20 into LACHINE. I mean, it's a very old part of town. As a matter of fact, I'd like to live there next year, friendly, because I'm fed up with the Hochelaga.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Even though it's a convenient place to live, it's what can I tell you? I got a dark apartment. Floors are all slanted. I mean, the building's like probably 100 years old.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They call that cachet or charm, right? The crooked, squeaky floors.
I don't know. I mean, we live in an age of exaggerations. I don't have to tell you, you know. So people have a way to put a positive things and spin on things, and I don't know. You know me. I call things for what they are. So it's not a shithole or anything. It's just I've had better, you know. Best apartment I ever had was in PIERRE, actually. Oh, I love the sound of that blinker. I like how the tires squeal, just the slightest hard turn.
And these are radials, they're not even bias ply. If you had bias ply tires on it, you'd really be screeching.
Oh man, you're not kidding. So what are you going to put this in storage in October?
Yeah, because I get money back from because I registered for the year, and then if you take it off the road, by the end of the month, they'll give you the remaining bit of the year, right?
I thought
if I go one day or 1 week into October, I got to pay all of October.
Oh, I thought it was no. I thought it was like that deal was like until the end of November.
Well, I could keep it registered all year if I wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Is the wind too noisy?
Yeah, but I don't think I can grab the handle from here anyway, so maybe just put it halfway, you know?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. We're not going to stay on anyway, so.
What I'll do is I'll turn around at the next one.
Well, it's too bad the clouds rolled back in, but I expected that. They were calling for that today, variable skies, partly sunny, partly cloudy. What is it George Carlin once said I saw recently? He says it used to be partly cloudy, now it's partly sunny. This guy, I'm telling you, is the most brilliant comedian that ever lived, man. This guy thinks exactly like me. Well, maybe not exactly, because he was kind of radical in some of his thinking, but generally, he's right. You know, like when he's talking about you're in the airport, okay, we're going to be pre-boarding now. What do you mean pre-boarding? You're under boarding, you don't. What are you talking about? So yeah, I don't think you had answered my question. If you had if money was no object and you could buy any big boat you could that came out of Detroit, what would it be?
I don't know, maybe I'd like to see what like a 50s Cadillac would be like.
It's funny, that's what I was thinking actually.
That would be neat. Then I think a Corvette, an earlier Corvette would be neat.
What are we at now? 55th or 32nd? 32nd, eh?
No, 55th here.
You know, it's funny, my mom, my stepfather live near here. They live on 49th. It would be funny actually if we went near LACHINE and then like just went by their house to see if they were home and surprised they look. Play a joke on them and say, this is my new car, you know? No, they wouldn't believe it.
What's neat in this tunnel area is you hear the engine.
Yeah, totally. One time I was here though.
So I'll go back this way?
Yeah, sure. I remember one year I was at that tunnel, I did some truck spotting and there was somebody got their trailer stuck there.
Oh no.
Yeah, it was a woman actually. Actually, I saw a Honda Element hit an older Hyundai Santa Fe, and they were both women today on Ontario and Delorme. Yeah.
Well, I think people are distracted now, you know.
Oh yeah, big time.
And the cars, you know, if you have an airbag, you're not going to get hurt if you crash into something, right? On an older car, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, that's the thing I forgot to mention before. We were mentioning something about crashes. I know, look at this. Where's the fire? He knows
if he smashes into something, he's going to crash into his cushy airbag, right?
Yeah.
With this, you'll get speared by the steering column.
That's what I wanted to say is that the thing with old cars, I noticed this many years ago when I had my 78 Caprice for like a couple of years, and I didn't really drive it, you know, it was my friend who drove it, or friends I should say, when I had more friends. And is that old cars, when the hell do you ever hear about them getting in an accident? You don't, because people generally who have old cars, they drive them carefully, and people see these cars coming, you know, all their chrome is reflective, their paint jobs often are, you know what I mean? I even asked somebody one time who was in an insurance company, and she agreed with me. She's like, yeah, you're right, you know, they don't, they're not really involved in crashes, obviously when it comes, but if it's, you know, a muscle car or something, well, hey, I mean...
But the insurance on old cars like this is not expensive, it's much less than a...
That's right. That's right. It's only the really high.
They look at the statistics on
yeah.
it, and they know that you're not going to crash, and you store it indoors.
Yeah, exactly. But that's why I brought up the muscle cars, because they have so much power. And let's be honest, a lot of these guys, they drive these cars. They even take them to Naperville and go dragging with them. I mean, what are they made for? They're made to race. You know? Really. It's kind of fitting, though, I find that you're wearing that white dress shirt, though, seriously. You know?
I don't normally dress like this.
You know, you remind me of Richard Dreyfuss in Mr. Holland's Opus. Remember that he had a Corvair? And then he kept it, and then his son, well, I don't know if I think his son restored it. I don't remember. It was a very long movie, you know? It's very fitting, though. I like that. It's a good movie. Great soundtrack. Where you hear songs like... 1, 2, 3, da, 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 da. It's so easy. Da, 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 da. See, that's my dream, Ed, to own a classic car and have the oldies playing of that time. Yeah. To me, that's the closest you can get to a time machine. Yeah. You know? Look at this guy. T-Rex and a Mustang. Would be nice if we would cross paths with another oldie, though. That would be nice. I did see a couple earlier today. I saw an Eldorado on Girard, like early 80s. Actually, you know what's funny? I spotted this, like, what is it, 79 to 85 Eldorado on Girard, and then hours earlier on Ontario, again, from the same ilk, a Toronado. Oh, yeah. I'm like, what are the odds of that, really, you know? Seriously. Go figure. You see that, guys? That building, that gray building, that used to be the GE building, General Electric. Now it's owned by Cadrail. Oh, look at this. Yeah, fire truck responding. Follow that fire truck. It's a spare even. It's even more fitting. Where's he going? Oh, you want to listen to that, Detroit? The best sounding Detroit, best sounding diesel engine ever made. You know what's funny? I had a premonition because I had a feeling that was going to happen. I don't know, me lately with premonitions that it's like, you know, I had a feeling I'm going to get a fire truck responding, and there you go. How do you like them apples? See that? You're my good luck charm. Just like the song by Elvis.
So I think you're the only person that sat in that back seat.
Maybe ever. But you said it was was it your uncle or your grandmother who had this car?
No, it was my uncle. And
from where again?
Well, in Connecticut, just outside of New York City.
Oh, I love Connecticut.
And he bought it in 1972. It's a 63, bought it in 72 for his girlfriend.
Wow.
And he himself used to switch cars very often, but he loved, you know, old cars. But he'd switch every couple of years. But this one, she wanted to keep it, and she kept it until she died in 2012.
He bought it in 72, so he bought it for like he bought it for like 50 beans or something.
I don't know what he paid for it, but he kept it, or she kept it, for 40 years. Turn left here, but I have to cut in front of people.
I'm gonna have to say, I think this is gonna be maybe one of the finest rides I've ever filmed in an old car. Seriously.
It does look ominous though, eh? Look at the...
I know, I love it. It's... I mean, maybe it might rain a little bit. I don't think much. I mean, like you said, they didn't predict
He's
any
a
rain.
colleague of mine from work.
Ah, I figured, yeah.
He lives right near my house at the bottom of the street. And he rides that motorcycle all over the country. Well, there's a couple buses.
Lights, and I was making a... Okay, go ahead. So you're talking about that...
So my uncle, his girlfriend died in 2012. She was, you know, probably around in her 90s.
Yeah.
And so he knew I liked old cars, and he said, if you want the Corvair, come and get it. So it was in the winter time, and so I rented a U-Haul pickup truck and a U-Haul trailer and drove down with my dad and drove down to Greenwich, Connecticut. And then I didn't know what to expect there. I thought the car was going to be like pristine, like jacked up on a nice clean concrete floor. I get there, I open the door.
Oh boy.
It's in a shed
on
a dirt floor.
That's bad.
Tires have deflated.
Oh yeah.
The rims have buried themselves in the earth. The mice were living in the car. There were dead rats on the ground. It was a mess. Of course it didn't start. You know, it was covered in dust. And he had just parked it in there, and then he had some health problems and he couldn't move it after that. So it sat maybe for 10 years. So what I did is I dragged the thing out. There were no brakes. The engine didn't start. So I just winched it up, and I hand winched it onto the trailer. And then we drove it up to, I did all the paperwork to get it past customs.
Right.
You have to hand that in like 3 days ahead.
Oh yeah, you got that.
Clear it to make sure there's no lien on the car. And then I brought it up and you know, slowly lowered it into the garage because the garage is on a slope. And then I started inspecting to see, you know, what the condition was. And you know, I knew the floor had holes in it, but the big surprise was that the frame in the front was all rusted out.
Really?
So what I had to do was find a replacement because I couldn't fix it. I had to find one. So
holy cow.
So I have a friend in California that used to have a bunch of Corvairs, and he said, oh, I'll go find you one at a scrapyard. So we found one, and FedEx the whole front end, on a pallet.
Really? Yeah. That's what I was going to ask, if it was just a front clip you replaced or the whole frame.
No, it was the frame in the front with all the suspension, the drum brakes, all the steering, everything in the front. And it's bolted on with 3 bolts per side. And And so then I took out the old one, took the parts off that I needed from it, took the newer one apart, sandblasted it, and then used an epoxy paint on all the parts, new bushings, everything. And then I had to cut out the floor because that was the passenger or the driver's side floor was all rusted out. So I cut out what was left of it, put in a new stamp panel in there. And then there were a few other spots. The trunk in the front needed to be welded. And then I managed to redo all of the brake lines, fuel lines, had the fuel tank coated, cleaned and coated. And then after that, I passed the SAQ test for the inspection, the safety test. Right. And then I used it, but I was driving out one weekend to Cornwall just to test it out on the Highway 2, and the rockers were making noise, and then they broke, and I got stranded on in the middle of like a farm area, farm road.
Oh boy!
And so I had to be towed back 160 kilometers back. Luckily, I had the CAA. And then I started looking at the engine. I thought, oh, I better just take it out and redo everything. So that started another 2 years of restoration work. And then just this spring, I started it up after doing the full engine rebuild, and it started right away. Oil pressure was good. So this is the end of the first summer that I'm using it.
Well, I'm really glad to have met you. I'm really glad. It's a good story. I'm really glad that you saved this car, even though you had to go so far. But I mean, but you did get this car for free, though.
Yep.
Okay.
I got it for free.
Even though it wasn't free, right?
No. I said free in quotation marks.
Yeah. Like I always.
I got the project. That's what it was.
Like I always say, everything comes with a price.
Oh,
eh?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been easier, and maybe the same price, to just buy one already fixed up. But
yeah.
You know, I like the idea of learning how it all works.
Yeah, but not only that, it's a family heirloom, you know. And not only that, it's a two-door sedan, and not only that, it's red.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, look, even if you bought one, let's say from out west, well, it doesn't matter if it's from, Alberta, BC, or California, whatever, you still have to pay up the ass for shipping. Just the shipping alone is going to cost you a fortune. You know? By the way, you see this bus terminal here? I'm convinced that used to be a streetcar terminal.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, because back in the day...
Right. I think it was.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Yeah, right here at Elmhurst here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I come around here sometimes. The Montreal Association for the Blind is down there. I've been. A matter of fact, I went to get some my glasses. I had to go pick them up because one of the lenses I had replaced because I dropped them a few times, and one of the lenses got scratched. And the guy, the optometrist, he has my file, and the guy's an amazing guy. I said, "Can I look at it?" He's like, "Yeah." I mean, the thing is it's like this thick, And I'm like, and I looked to see how long I thought I'd been going there since I was 13. No, I had been going there since '85.
Oh yeah.
85, man.
To where
the Montreal Association for the Blind.
Okay.
Yeah. And did you know that it was Jack Layton? Jack Layton's father that started that place.
Oh,
right?
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it was such a shame, as you know, when that guy died. And it makes you think of that song by Billy Joel. Only the good die young.
Yeah.
It's just too bad.
So I think we might have to wind down the ride because I think
No. This is great. This is fine. I'll get out anywhere. There's no problem. It's my pleasure. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and look at that, finished with the hybrid overpriced $1 million scrap that's crossing our way here, which you can't even open the windows. But anyway, enough said, so I hope you like the ride. Bye-bye.